We never found a place for that character.
Another thing I think that drove us, apart from just stuff that seemed funny, was sort of the underpinnings of the show, which was that we all grew up in this country with school. I mean, I personally went to Robert E. Lee High School, home of the champions, in San Antonio, Texas, and I wanted to do something that would honor the people who helped shape me in such a really great, constructive way.
How'd the champions do this year? 0-6.
Yeah.
Some sort of dumbass name.
The champions.
We lost again. Oh, too bad for the champions.
No, we were actually volunteers.
Champions lose.
But I think that, we all have, growing up with such respect and reverence for authority, we wanted to be able to do something that would tweak the authority that we all grew up with, and I think that's part of what people relate to. And also the idea of after-school specials, which were these, high morality tales where this awful problem would be presented and then sewn up.
In the first 30 seconds.
Right, and then at the end, everything's fine. And I think the idea of
an animal dies and then everything's fine.
Right, after the...
And there is no father, and everything's fine.
Right. And the alcoholism. And so we just set out to have a morality tale each week where that you just learn the wrong lessons, or at least that one over there did. Yeah.
You hear people talk about, when you read about the show, people talk about the show Get a Life often. Is that something that anybody...
The guy with Corky, Get a Life, with the retarded boy?
No. That's life goes on.
Oh, what's your question?
I guess you just answered.
Thanks for stopping by.
I love that show.
Yeah, we heard that. We saw that in reviews sometime.
Anything, was that something that, I guess I know, that was the one with Chris Elliott, isn't it?
Right.
Oh, that one.
I was familiar with it.
I was familiar with the concept, but I don't think I ever watched it that many times.
That show, as far as I can remember, and I didn't watch that many of it, was sort of...
It was canceled, that one.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But it played on the convention of sitcoms.
Yeah.
And so I suppose we had that in common, is that we were playing on television conventions, and we gave wrong messages.
The right way.
But no, it wasn't a model.
Right. Okay, well, let me just extrapolate on that a little bit. The last book that I've really read on, sort of the development of history was the Tony Hendra book, Going Too Far, I think it's called, which takes it up to baby boomer humor and sort of traces the evolution from the
baby boomer humor.
From gag-oriented humor to the more topical and more media referential of humor of people like Saturday Night Live and so on. I'm just wondering, I'm getting a lot of blank looks, so I'm not sure if anybody's knows that book.
A book? No, you read a book. Yeah, right.
I'm wondering where you guys and Amy have seen where humor has come from that point of, say, Saturday Night Live when it first started. What has happened to comedy since that time, and where do you see your humor and your show's humor sort of fitting into that evolution?
I think it's... Well, I don't know where we fit, but I would say humor is... you can be darker now than you used to be, and the audience will come along with you. For instance, I think what pops to mind is George Costanza buying the cheap envelopes and his fiancée dies. I mean, that was the season ender. And that's an incredibly dark way. I think it was dark even for that show, but that's something you couldn't have gotten away. Certainly, even when Saturday Night Live started, that's the only difference I can see. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is...
Was Saturday Night Live something that any of you watched?
Yeah.
I liked SCTV when I was little.
SCTV, yeah.
Yeah, I like that, because the sets always look cheap, and, let's put on a show feel to it. It didn't look so overly produced.
Me too, I guess, and I was the first, because I remember before that I used to like Rich Little a lot.
Yeah.
And but I used to watch...
I'm Richard Nixon.
Right, and you would do his. And that was pretty much that was as irreverent. And then there was this SNL, and you're going, man, that's completely the next level. Because I remember the first sketch they had was Nixon and Kissinger praying, remember? Weeping and praying. Yeah. And it was so far removed from you know, how sanitary Rich Little's sort of thing was, or it was such a caricature, and this seemed like so much darker.
But
So
I
that seemed
think
like a big turning point, I think.
I think, you know, and especially when SNL started, it was so much about social and political and cultural satire. And I think a lot of television especially, and humor in general, started becoming about television. And ironically, even though this show has, you know, some roots in like the after-school special convention, I think we were really looking more at just sort of authority and, you know, tweaking that in general. And to me, you know, there's the exceptions. Like SCTV was all about TV, but it was really satirical about TV, and they had great characters. But so much of comedy has become about TV, and I think that it sort of falls short of where
We actually made a concerted effort doing this, and Eggs 57 before it, was not to make real-world references. And the closest we come in this is like, you know, the Miracle Worker kind of reference. But I can't think of another
No, we
in
didn't put,
30
like,
episodes
pop-
where we never
pop
mentioned real
references.
It wasn't all about
places.
pop culture.
which-
Yeah, we kept it fictitious. And plus, it was nice about it is like the props department and music and costumes. Everything was so crafted. We all thought the same way. Like you completely trusted each department. Like, oh, that person will take care of that, and they were always right on. You know what I mean?
I didn't trust
love
the
that.
craft services people, though.
Oh, craft services.
No.
But it was the first time I've ever worked on something like that, where everyone just had the same mind and the same spirit.
There was, yeah, an incredible, this sounds probably really cheesy, but there was an incredible collection of people who came together on this show in all different directions, who both had real passion for it. There was a real family atmosphere, but also creatively. There was just such a nice, creativity could come from every direction on this show.
Now, so was that just a matter of luck that everybody got together, or was that because of the way
I
you
think it's
guys
a
ran it?
testament to them
Yeah.
right there, yeah.
Okay. Just getting back to characters for a second. Paul, we're going to see the pilot later, but your character actually changed from the pilot to when the show went on.
Got less gay.
Well, you were the librarian.
It's just a testament to my inability to have a consistent performance. I